goodness. I am so excited to be here. Oh man, I'm excited because there are people on the screen watching right now, and then there's gonna be people watching later. But then there are a small group of people here in this place, and I don't know when the last time I got to be kind of around a group of people like this, y'all. Like, this is amazing. Man, plywood has been just an instrument in my life in so many ways. I remember 10 years ago talking to Jeff about this idea, and then he was like, well, good luck, go do it. Go actually do it. And so then I went and I did it. I started a lifestyle clothing company. If you're not familiar with So Worth Loving, we are a lifestyle company that bridges the gap between not talking about our struggles and talking about it. We use apparel and we use storytelling to do that. And I've seen over the last 10 years individuals go through depression, anxiety, breakups, divorce, self-harm, maybe even just an awareness of childhood wounds. Whatever it is that has kind of shaped our view of how we see ourselves, how we step into relationships and friendships. I've seen that over the last 10 years, and Jeff and Plywood the whole team has been a part of helping me figure it out, going from a passion project to starting a business and sustaining it. But they've also seen me go through my personal internal battles, my own personal change. And I think that we can all attest that this last year, when I was thinking about what is it that I want to talk about, what should I talk about? I have no idea, because there are so many things that we could talk about. We could talk about the social justice and the unrest that we all feel right now, or we could talk about politics, which that's not my strength, so definitely not going to go down that path. We could talk about anxiety and depression and how we have felt the weight of loneliness during a time of feeling isolated. We could talk about being extremely empathetic and absorbing what we are seeing on social media on a constant basis. There's so many things that we could talk about. And as I was kind of thinking through Plywood's involvement in my life over the last few years, I think what I'm going to talk about is change. Because I think we've all experienced a lot of change. And with change, we can have adversity. We can have just a lot of pain, and it hurts. Change can hurt. Change can reveal to us how we see ourselves. And I think there are three people there's probably more, but the three people I'm thinking about that I'm talking with and that I'm sharing my story with, I think it's the people that are they thrive off change. You know those friends that you're just like, wow, you're just really excited your life constantly changes. That's awesome. It's like they're revigorated, they're just like, yes, I love change. And then there's the group that's this last year was the first time I ever experienced an immeasurable amount of stress with my business, with my fulfillment facility, with my staff, that it is just heavy, and I'm stressed, and I don't know how to pay my bills. I had to let people go so I could pay my bills. So there's that group, right? And then there's the group of people I think that maybe they've endured an immeasurable amount of pain and change years ago. That group is kind of experiencing this now, and they're like, yeah, this is just hard. This is hard, but I've endured some really heavy change in the past. And so I now have a toolbox. So we have some that are just excited and have new vision and new dreams. And then we have the group that's, I just need some relief. I just need some sort of rest. I can't find rest in this change. And then there's the group that's I've endured a lot. I'm equipped to step into this. There's a quote that I really like that it says, when the seasons are changing, we are gifted a time to really wrestle with what we are purposed for. And when I say purposed, I want to be careful, because I think it's really easy to find our self-worth and to find our identity in what we're doing. Performance. It's really easy to think our purpose is our performance. Our purpose is, what is that deep down desire that you feel like you have a gifting to show up in your personal life, in your family, in your friends, in your business? Maybe it's working for a business. What is that deep down desire? And so I'll read that quote again. It says, when the seasons are changing, we are gifted a time to really wrestle with what we are purposed for. See, change does that, right? It invigorates us, but then it also reveals the things that are icky inside. It reveals the things that we say to ourselves quietly. Before I kind of dig deeper into change and talking about change and the wonderful lessons that we can all experience with change, I just want to take you down memory lane of a time that I had a lot of change. I remember going on the west side in Atlanta. If you're not from Atlanta and you're watching this, going on the west side, getting the really, really expensive cup of coffee, and walk into my car, and I had a little pep in my step, and just love my coffee. And I hear from the parking lot someone say, "Eryn, Eryn." I look over, and it's this guy, and he comes up to me, and he's like, "Eryn, you started a company called So Worth Loving, right?" "Yeah." And I said, yeah, I did. And he was like, I just want to tell you, So Worth Loving has meant so much to me. It's walked me through some of the hardest times with my wife and I, and how I view myself. And I started doing some digging deep down, and I realized, and he just started sharing his heart to me. I had my cup of coffee, and I was on autopilot. And at the time, I didn't know I was on autopilot. And he's like, I just wanted to tell you this. I just wanted to share what it's meant. And I just remember saying, thank you. I love hearing that. Thank you. Go to my car. I was more enthusiastic about my cup of coffee than I was about hearing this heartbeat share change and impact in their life. And I remember putting it there, and it was a signal to me that I could have listened to, but I didn't. I didn't listen to that signal. So I put the cup of coffee down, and I leave, and 6 months later, I experienced an immeasurable amount of change. And I went through a divorce. I went through a change of community, actually a loss of a lot of community, a change with fulfillment facilities, a change with staff, a change with financial comfort, a change with reputation, a change with status. I experienced so much change in a course of a year that it paralyzed me. I didn't know what to do, but I knew I was going to try to do something. Because sometimes I think the misconception with change is that we think that if something is changing, something is shifting, we need to keep moving and changing. We need to pivot. We need to constantly pivot. We need to, okay, well, that didn't work. We'll do this. We'll do that. In that time, I started spinning my wheels out. I think we put this pressure on ourselves, or we scroll through social media and we see what people are doing. And when we're in a season of a change, and if it's every bit of our life is changing, we think we need to change more. We're like, well, let's figure out how to change more. I want to propose something. What would it be like if instead of changing in the midst of change, we are still? What if instead of seeking quick fixes to remedy our aches with what we're enduring, we sit and we reflect on what we are enduring? What would that look like? I learned that my entire world outside was changing. I was so fixated on how to either maintain it and control it, deny it, or reinvent something else outwardly, but inwardly, I wasn't looking at what was changing in me. The definition of change is the act or instance of making or becoming different. Change changes us. It makes us different. It makes us, we get a deeper soul. We get a grit in us. But sometimes I think we're scared to face the development of that grit. And the development of that grit comes from when we are still in change. When we're not trying to spin our wheels, when we're not trying to control and fix, and when we're not trying to overly obsess over how can we correct this situation, how can we make it better. Instead, what if we just sat in it, which is really painful. I am an Enneagram I'm a 7 on the Enneagram. Y'all, pain is not something I like to sit in. I actually like to go on adventures, I like to avoid it at all costs. I don't like to sit in pain. But the beauty that I have learned in just sitting in the change is what I am capable of instead of pursuing things that will fix this ache in me. I think quiet times allow us not to react, but to pause and look in. And so if you are experiencing right now maybe less emails, less sales, maybe you're experiencing less text messages, maybe less gatherings, that quietness reveals really what is inside of us and how we do view ourselves. Change showed me how burnt out I was. It showed me how much of a yes person I was. I love what Dr. Henry Cloud says. He says, nobody respects a yes person. However, we say yes to be respected. Not ironic. It's like we say yes to things in hopes that we'll gain admiration and respect. But nobody respects a yes person. It showed me how much I said yes, how much I lacked boundaries. Change showed me that. Change showed me how jealous I was. How I would get jealous when things got really quiet around me and I maybe was celebrated less or I was sought after less. Showed me how jealous I was of friends, of people around me. And it does that, right? Change does show you that. It showed me who I surrounded myself with. It showed me who I allowed to keep me small and who I allowed to kind of push me down. And I think, we also allow to push down stuff. Like we push stuff down and change. It will bubble up and over. French press, I think about French press. That is not all a good analogy for how much, when you push it down a French press, it's really amazing how none of the coffee actually does come up over. That is not what happens with our emotions. When we push it down, it eventually comes up. But one thing I did recognize in my change was how amazing and strong the So Worth Loving community is. It was not built to be about me. It was built around community. And I watched online gatherings of people still believing and wanting to spread the message of So Worth Loving. When I was going through that change, I wanted to quit. I tried to sell So Worth Loving. I fired myself a few times, which we all do. we are starting something, we fire ourselves and we quit. And so while I was wrestling with all of that, I did experience watching community stay strong. And so what I want to propose is this also. What if in our ability to be still, in the change, we actually get to see the things that we have invested in flourish without us? Could what we are pursuing, could it surpass the trials and sustain without our ego being involved and being fluffed up? Like, what if we needed to be in a season of hiddenness, in a season of silence, in a season of quiet, in a season of stillness in order to see what's inside of us? Because when we are able to see what is inside of us, we do develop a renewed vision. We do develop a new idea. We do develop something that's bigger and better that our community can flourish with. But we gotta be still enough to do the work in order to do that. We can't skip the steps. We can't. We want to. We try to. I try to avoid it. But we can't. We absolutely can't. You know, stillness produces a foundation for a renewed vision. Stillness produces the foundation for a renewed vision, a new idea, a new way to pivot what you want to do. And we all are pivoting right now. We are all trying to figure out what to do next. This next year is unpredictable. 5-year plan looks a lot different. I've never really had a 5-year plan ever in the 10 years that I've started So Worth Living. However, I know I'm supposed to have one, but maybe that's why I don't have one, because change is inevitable. But maybe the forward motion is stillness. Maybe it's learning a new awareness of what's inside of us, what you tell yourself. What do you tell yourself when no one's looking? What do you tell yourself when text messages, emails, finances look different? So I want to ask you, could you sit in the stillness and let the work that needs to be done be done? You know, be proactive in looking inwardly. Surrounding yourself with healthy people to process. Give yourself permission to not be applauded. You know, as leaders, I think we constantly want to be applauded because we just want to know that we are on purpose. But our purpose isn't found in what we do. Our purpose is found in how we love and how we show up and how we create communities and be able to really sit in the mess, you know? To love others well, but we have to learn how to love ourselves first. And so I want to end with this quote. It says, "Real contentment must come from within. You and I cannot change or control the world around us, but we can change and control the world within us." And so what would it look like if we start looking inwardly at the change that can happen inside of us, so then we can then set out to change our communities and our business, our mission, our purpose. Thank you.